Hey everyone, it's Pam from Stellcrafts by Pam, and I'm back with another video tutorial on my YouTube channel and blog featuring some Pajama Crafter stamps. This set is called Dynamite Birthday, and it's a cute little set featuring these little dinosaurs playing in the band with all the instruments, all the things, and just having a good time. We're going to be working with some specialty paper today, doing some fussy cutting, and a bunch of Copic coloring. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's a look at all the papers we'll need to get started. The first one is going to be a sheet of white cardstock. That's going to be good for alcohol marker coloring. We're going to use this Dynamite Birthday set, and I have already stamped and die cut all these images using my brother's scan and cut, so I will not bore you with that, but you could also fussy cut these images as well. We're going to use some specialty paper. This is cut to 4¼ by 5½ inches, and then a half sheet of black paper that we're going to use for some die cut stars. And then as always, we have our top folding card base that measures 11 inches by 4¼ and it is folded at 5½ inches on the 11-inch side. We're going to start with this half sheet of black cardstock, and we're going to use 3 different size stars from our stash to die cut from the black cardstock. Now just take a moment to appreciate this rainbow of Copic markers that we're going to be using today for this card. It's beautiful, right? So let's go ahead and start coloring in our dinosaurs. This first one is going to be red, so we're going to use R29, R27, R24 Copic markers. I'm going to go in with the R29 first, where I think the shading should be, the dark sides of the dinosaur. And then I'm going to use that R27 to blend that R29 out in all the parts that I shaded. And then I will go in with the R24 as my lightest shade to fill in the rest of the dinosaur. And then for the belly and the scales, as well as all the nails, we're going to go in with that R24 again to keep those at the lightest shade. Now, I am not going to try to name all these dinosaurs. If you ask me, this one's a Stegosaurus, but when I looked them up, they all weren't fitting the descriptions of the images. So we're just going to go with this is dinosaur 1. And I just went in with an N0 for the mic and the microphone stand. Now we're going to move into our second dinosaur, which we're going to use YR07, 04, and 01. I'm going to use that YR07 to go in where I think the shadows should be. Then I'll go in with the YR04 to blend that out. And then once I'm done blending out the shaded areas, I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of the dinosaur with YR01, which is our lightest shade. And as I did with our last dinosaur, I'm going to use the lightest shade on the belly, on the top of the tail, on the nails, and I think that's about it. And then we'll also use that N0 to fill in the saxophone. And then here's a closer look at that second dinosaur. Now we're going to do our yellow dinosaur. So we're going to use Y18, Y15, and Y13. So we'll start with the Y18 and apply that where we think the shadows should be. And then we're going to blend that dark Y18 with Y15, which is our medium shade. And then once we blend that out, we can go in with the Y13 to fill in the rest of the dinosaur. And as the others, I'm going to go ahead and do his back and the scale on the back and his belly and toenails and nails with that lightest shade Y13. And then I'm going to go in again with the N2, I might have said N0 before, but N2, and fill in that keyboard. Now for our fourth dinosaur, we're going to make him green, so we're going to use YG05, 03, and YG11. We're going to start off with that darkest shade, which is YG05. So again, we're going to go in where we think the shadows of the dinosaur should be. And then we will go in with YG03 to blend that YG05 out. And I decided for the face not to do the YG11, the lightest color, just because I really wasn't sure where the shading should be. So I just went ahead and filled the rest of the dinosaur with YG11. And then for his scales and his belly and nails, I went ahead and finished that with the YG11 as well. Now for his instrument, instead of using the N2 like the other dinosaurs, I went in with some purples. So I used V06 and V09. I started off with that V09 where the shading should be, and then went in with the V06 to blend out the darker shade. And the very center of the guitar, I finished that with V06 as well. And here's a closer look. And here's our last dinosaur. So this one is going to be blue, which will complete our rainbow. So I have B28, B24, and B04. And I started off with B28, and then I'm going to go in with the B24 to blend that dark shade out. And then for the lightest shade, I'm going to use B04 for the rest of the actual dinosaur to fill him in. But for his scales, I'm going to use B0000. So for his scales and his nails, pretty much just his belly, really, I use that B0000. And then I'm going to go in with the little picture on the drum and use that B0000 for the sky. And then I'll go in again with that N2 for the ring around the drum and the cloud and the volcano. And then lastly, I went in with YR15 for the lava in that little image. And so here is a closer look at that last dinosaur. Now we can take a look at all 5 of our beautiful rainbow dinosaurs. And we're just going to add some details now. So I have this black glaze pen that I'm going to use on the dinosaurs whose eyes are open. Then I'm going to go in with a white gel pen just for some added details to add some realism to our dinosaurs or life to our dinosaurs. Now we have all the pieces we need to put our card together. So we're going to start off with that specialty paper and use some tape runner adhesive to adhere that to our top folding card base. Then we're going to line up our stars on our specialty paper and just use some temporary adhesive to adhere them down so that we can turn it over and trim off the excess stars that go over the edge. And that's going to make it easier when we put the foam tape on to know where it needs to go. So I'm just using these small foam squares to fill up the back of the stars and adhere them to our specialty paper. So I did our medium star in the top left hand corner, then I'm going to do the small star in the middle right, And then the largest star is going to go on the bottom left-hand corner of our card. And the way I thought of it was that these stars were kind of like the stages for our dinosaurs. So I set it up like I would see at a normal concert. You have usually your drummer in the back, then you have like a keyboardist or your side instruments next, and then usually you have your guitarist up front with the singer. And to me, this just looks like a rockin' dino party where these dinosaurs are just rocking out, and I love it. So now we can go ahead and stamp our sentiment for our card and some music notes, which I'll use for embellishments. And so I just lined up my sentiment and the one music note, and I'm going to go ahead and use some Copic friendly ink on those. That way I can color in my music notes. And I'm going to go in not just once, but I'm going to go in twice with that music note, so I have 2 sets. And then once those are stamped, I'm going to go in with our V06, which was our lightest purple, to have them match our dinosaurs. And then I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut these out just because it's very simple. They're very small images and the sentiment is pretty short. So what I like to do is I like to cut each piece separately, and then I go in one by one to fussy cut them with a white border around the edge. So you'll notice that I am moving my paper and not my scissors. And that's the best way I've found to fussy cut. So that way you get smooth corners and not sharp edges. Now we can go ahead and adhere our sentiment to our card. So I'm just using some small foam squares, and I'm using the same squares on our music notes. I put one down at the bottom, one at the top. And then lastly, I'm going to go in with some shine details on our star stages with a white gel pen, just to add some extra oomph to the card. Something small, but I think it always gives a nice finished look. And then actually we're going to put some sequins on as well. I just have these holographic star sequins from my stash, and I'm just using a quickie glue pen to adhere those down. And then that finishes our rainbow dinosaur rockin' card. So here's a closer look at that finished card with the specialty paper matching our rainbow dinosaurs. And our sentiment, they say it's your birthday. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Remember, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye!